Hi and hello to Marotopia, a community of artists, producers and sound lovers. My name is Marc Romboy, and together with my dear friend Robert Babic, we played the biggest clubs and festivals around the globe and released thousands of tracks on high-grade labels like Compact, Bedrock, Carl Cox's awesome Soundwave imprint and systematic recordings. How Robert, how are you?
Hello Marc, nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you again, my dear friend. And today we instantly jump into a question, which reaches us a lot. And I'm pretty sure you're really curious to hear the answer to this question. And the question is called, why the hell mastering at all, and how do I properly prepare my track for a mastering session? An example by you, Robert, because you do mastering.
Yes, I'm.
I don't, by the way. For a reason we will later on tell you, the reason why I don't do mastering on my own, but Robert does. So Robert, please tell us, why the hell mastering at all? Do I need it or can I save the costs?
You can do it yourself if you know what you do. But why mastering at all? Mastering has to do with delivering your music in a special format that the distribution can send to all the customer, right? So there are some certain rules, I would say. So the music has to be stereo. It has to be 16 bits. It has to be 44.1 kilohertz, and then there's this rule or there's this thing called loudness. And you want that your music sounds at least the same loud like all the other music out there, right? If you created a great track, but you don't have a proper mastering, probably your track will be way lower in volume than all the other music, and that means it's probably the DJ, I speak of electronic dance music now, probably the DJ will not play it because it's not loud enough, it's not punchy enough. This is one of the things why mastering. And then there's also another thing. When I try to explain mastering to people who have no idea what this actually is, I explain it in a way that my job as a mastering engineer is the same like a makeup artist.
Okay.
You get a great model for photo shooting, right? And my job is to make this great model sound absolutely perfect and beautiful. So I do the last little things to the music, the last little changes to make it sound perfect. So I'm the music makeup artist, kind of. But Marc, you as a label owner of a really great label, what is your view on mastering?
From the label point of view and from the systematic recordings point of view, I totally agree to what you said. The recording has to be in a certain shape. It has to be, there are certain things like the cut in the beginning, the cut towards the end, also the entire EQ spectrum, which has to be in a certain shape as well. And also when it comes to the loudness and to the volume of the track, it's very important that it's in a certain format. But I think it's much, much more than this, because nowadays, I would think, after you told me what it has to be like, okay, I asked ChatGPT, and then I put my pre-master file into the gear and act according to ChatGPT's ideas. Enter on ChatGPT, hey, I have a pre-master, and now I want to master it myself. Then you could ask Chat which ingredients you need in order to reach the right format for an upload on Spotify and the other DSPs. Nevertheless, it's one aspect of mastering, but I think there is one other aspect of mastering which is much more important, and this is the experience of the mastering guy. An example, you. So you have an experience of 3 decades or more than 3 decades of that you know how club music has to sound like. And
do you really want to keep producing tracks nobody plays?
We show you in Malta at our masterclass in Robert's studio how to stand out of the crowd. And we want to take your track to the next level. And we are more than happy to help you with this. So, February 2026, Marotopia Masterclass in Malta.
Yes.
It's not only, I think some people think, okay, I need to master my track because everybody does this. And maybe a lot of people don't actually know what the mastering process is like. One aspect of the mastering process is, for example, to have a final person who can reflect your track. And I know mastering engineers who sometimes say, hey, this track is great, but this is not so great, or that is not so great. For example, let's say some EQing the masterer could not really enhance, or dynamic EQing which could be enhanced, or dynamic mixing, dynamic volume which could be better. And a good mastering engineer, I don't know, but yeah, let's say a good mastering engineer would say, hey, the pre-master is already great, but what do you think about this and that enhancement?
Actually, you are completely right. I'm talking to my clients, and if I hear certain problems, I will speak to them, because the secret to a great master is not the mastering; it's a great, well-balanced mixdown. Your mixdown needs to be well balanced, and all the problems need to be solved already. Mastering is not there to solve problems, right? Like I said before, I'm like a makeup guy. Mastering is not just making things loud. You can do it loud as well. Just put a limiter on it to the limit, and it's loud. This is not mastering. It's the final little things, and also, having a guy like me telling you, can you change the kick drum in a certain way so the overall balance will be much better and we will have a better result. So it makes sense to have a second opinion. Of course, you can ask your mom, but then your mom will tell you how she can do better spaghetti than probably make your mix down.
This is thin ice you're walking on. I personally would ask my mom and the mastering engineer together. And if both say that the height is too loud, the height is too loud, Robert, right? So you walked on very, very thin ice. So a very important question is, how can I prepare a pre-master? So what is the best pre-master you could wish?
There's a certain myth in the internet where I see it in different videos or in articles where they say if you send out a track for mastering, it needs to be -6 dB, below 0, and all this bullshit. To be honest, that's all the myth. For me, as a mastering guy, I want just a clean mixdown. Not too low in volume and also not going into red. Take all your plugins away from your master channel. I mean, you can, if you want, do a little bit of group compression. If the track needs this, totally fine. Saturation, totally fine. But please take limiter away, take like everything that is really working on the master channel away, and give me a pure mixdown that is well balanced. I don't care about the levels because I can make louder or lower in volume here anyway. So no, don't worry. That's all. It can be any kind of it should not be an MP3 file to send out. Send out a WAV file. Minimum 24 bits or more if you have, and stereo. That's actually it. And I can work with it.
Okay, you remember these Ghetto House tracks from Dance Mania from the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s, where the producers like DJ Dion and Armando and all these dudes recorded their tracks on audio cassette? What would you say if somebody delivers a recording on audio cassette?
And audio cassette.
I got him.
I actually even don't. I don't have even a cassette player. Actually, I'm thinking of getting a tape. I still have a real tape machine, so people can send me their master on real tape.
That's possible. So you know what to do, right?
But the general delivery is, of course, digital. I mean, the clients sit everywhere in the world. You send out an email with a download link. That's the normal way.
Okay, would you be happy to receive a reference self-master, how the producer hears her or his master, him or herself?
Actually, yes. Sometimes I even ask for this just to get an idea what he is after. Because I had this thing where I got a mixdown that was very dull, and there was almost no high end, and I was not sure if this is how the producer really wanted his music, and I asked him to send me a version like a self-master, because this is usually a typical way also where people make their track and then they try to master their own music and then they are not successful enough. But this not a successful enough master can be very helpful, because in that certain case, the self-master had a lot of high end. So he was pushing the high end a lot in his master. And then I knew, okay, so probably his mixdown was not right. I told him he can increase the high end in the mixdown, and then I don't need to push the highs so much in the mastering. So it's a back and forth between. It can be helpful. So it can be helpful.
Yeah, communication. Yeah. So what you should not do is just giving the pre-master to somebody like Robert and thinking, okay, he does something great with it and then I'm happy. No matter what it is. So communicate what you want. And now for all the people who say, yeah, fair enough, nice, but I want to do my self-master. What would you recommend to people who are self-mastering their music, and which mistakes are the classical ones?
Of course you can self-master. why not? If you know what you do and you have a clear vision, you know your tools, why not? In that case, I would probably take a track that is somehow similar to mine as a reference and try to get close to this reference. That can be helpful. But the typical problem of self-mastered tracks is the guys just put a limiter on it, maximum, and destroy the whole sound. And the problem with just putting a limiter on a master is a limiter is basically a compressor with a very high ratio, and the limiter will always soften the edges. And if you really go strong into a limiter, it sounds super muddy and all the punch is gone. It's just screaming at you. It's just loud, but it's not punchy anymore. So be careful.
Yeah, especially in the high frequency range, it's very loud and it gives you the subjective feeling that it's sounding better, but it's just the high frequency which gives you the psychological impression it sounds better or better hearable.
And there's a certain rule. If you want your music really loud, you need less bass in your mixdown. If you want a lot of bass, you cannot go so loud. So you have to decide.
Yes, you have to decide. Otherwise, you cannot have it all. That's impossible.
Because the bass area has the biggest energy, and then the limiters or your processes will react on the bass. So you cannot go too loud because you squash the bass. So always find the right balance.
Okay, and here comes the conclusion. Why mastering? Why you need a mastering? First of all, mastering is very good if you work with people who have a lot of experience, such as Robert. Because they have the experience, they know which format the audio file has to be like, and you don't have to worry about this at all. The second aspect is that you have a last final possibility to reflect whether your track has some mistakes or some things which could be enhanced. So the mastering engineer in many cases tells you, hey, this could be enhanced or that could be enhanced. This can be volume relations or anything else. And I think these are the two main reasons why mastering really makes sense. Of course, you can do a self-mastering. However, I personally don't do it. I just do it when I want to play out a track. So I call it self-master to play. I call this file self-master to play. And in the very end, I forward my pre-master to a mastering engineer, like the 2-3 I'm working with, including my great friend Robert. And then I have a very last possibility to get some reflection about my track. This is why mastering totally makes sense. And now, Robert, like always in Marotopia, you have the last words.
And I think this should be also a tradition. Make more music. That's my last word. Make more music. And the world will be a better place.
Oh, so, jetzt kann ich dich hören.